Definitely got nasty.
Oh, yeah. Huh. I guess on the other side of the road, you guys do have some low, some moist ground.
Yeah.
We have we're just a big sand pile. We rarely get more than 10 days of a week or 10 days of black flies, and that's it. Yeah. Not much. I mean, some skeeters in the evening.
For us, it's like a tag team. They eat the black flies, and then the day they disappear, the mosquitoes.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
The horse flies, and it's
Yeah.
just continuous all year.
We don't get horse flies until the sheep come around to this end of the pasture.
Yeah.
And then they're there the rest of the summer. Why do we have sheep?
I think the beaver pond does it for us.
Yeah.
Water there,
Right.
folks love it.
I love it. Yeah.
What, you guys short on bugs? I got bugs. Who wants bugs?
No.
Come over, no problem.
No. We're good. I don't mind living on a sand pile. It's fine.
Little drumming interlude for us here, a little intro drumming.
Yeah.
All right, it's 6:30 p.m. I'm going to call the meeting to order. First thing we'll start with is the agenda review. Does anybody have any changes or amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, I have one correction. After number 9, it says the next regularly scheduled meeting will be Monday, April 18th. It really should say May 18th. I have my calendar correct. Is that right? Yes, okay, so that would be a correction I'd like to make. Hearing no other review comments, I'm going to move on to comments from the chair or the land use administrator. I have no comments tonight except that Joe will not be joining us. Vine, do you have any comments?
Only once we're in the public hearing, I do have another set of comments that were provided that are not in the packet, so I'll hand those out at that time.
Okay, can we also post those online?
Yep.
When that happens, okay, thank you. Comments from citizens regarding items not on the agenda. Anybody in the room want to make a comment on any items not on the agenda? Anybody online want to make a comment? See patients, we have just a few folks online, I can't tell, two? Okay, seeing no raised hands or mics coming on, I'm going to move on to approval of the meeting minutes for April 20th, 2026.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'm sorry, say again, Mike.
Motion to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Howard did a second. Any further discussion? Anyone? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Or any abstentions? Minutes pass. I'm gonna go ahead and open the public hearing, town plan readoption draft 2026-04 20. So where we are with this is we are in our deliberation, and at the last hearing, we ended our comments at 9 o'clock at night, and we got as far as page 179. Is that not correct, Ryan?
Yes, I believe the next comment that we'll talk about is 180.
Is on 180.
Yeah.
Okay, so then move to 180. So that would be August Murray on the second page, where he says concerns. It's hard to compare what has changed without a summary. He requested a summary document.
Yeah, I think we talked about that one, and then the next one that talks about the legend. We had it sort of led us on a discussion about the future land use map and stuff like that. So that's the one we left off on.
Okay,
So,
and
yeah.
did you have any time to do anything with the maps in the last 10 days?
I haven't changed them. I met with Todd Hindinger last week, and we went over stuff, and so I do have some changes that I'll make on a proposed new draft
180.
at the next meeting.
And I know that I heard comments from not only in the written comments, but some of the general comments was that everyone's struggling to find their parcels. So can we try to put the parcel lines on the maps?
Yeah, so that was part of the discussion. I'll throw them on for the future land use map, and we'll do the write up after each concern. And basically, the discussion was, well, it's mixed. About there's value to it, so you can sort of see where you live, but there's also it could be misleading, thinking that if a line bisects your property, that's something you know, that line is like deterministic or something, which it's not.
All right, I guess we'll get a chance to see what that looks like once you go back to the parcel snap down there. Does anybody else have any comments on this topic? Hearing none, I'm gonna move on to, August, Act 181, and so everybody knows, Act 181 and, State Bill 325 have all been, kicked down the road. The Environmental Committee, if I have the right name of the House Commission, they're recommending that they're gonna postpone and rewrite everything, so any comments about
Good.
181 and S 325 really aren't applicable anymore.
Right.
So, if that's the case, then let's move on down to, the next one. The map suggests the legend is not regulatory on its own. This document uses very prescriptive language, here's 70 times. So this is a philosophical statement from, August Murray about how he feels what the, maps portray. And I wasn't sure how we wanted to, work through that. We're saying, you know what, we feel like, the town plan is a guidance document, it's not regulatory. But anybody have any other thoughts on how to, respond to this?
I think we're gonna get, I think there's more of his comments further along are similar, and I think might be slightly more specific in ways that we can respond to better than this one.
Okay. Then based on that, I will move down to, where it says timestamp 1:15:30. Definition, he shared definition of a working document. He doesn't believe that that's the case with town plan, and then he goes back to, Act 181 again and S 235. Which we're gonna say is not applicable anymore. And then his written comments, are things he thinks we can address, and he asks us to take our time to go through and make sure we're not placing an undue burden or removing a right which a property owner currently enjoys. Anybody, any other comments or anything before I move to the next commenter?
No.
No, okay. The next one, a timestamp 58:15, from Stephen. His concern is conservation is important, but we don't want to be so concerned with conservation, we're having people sell their farm and not be able to use the land as they want within reasonable expectations. There's a need to grow the tax base. We don't want to conserve ourselves out of a tax base, so to speak. Stephen suggests we all can be cooperative and neighbors and likely know to dim the lights, even at an event happening in Hoisington Field. He raised concerns derived from the budget committee meeting about growing the tax base. And he feels that we don't want to scare business off, we need development, we need the money coming in to fix the problems we have.
I think we've addressed the conservation issue, the misunderstanding of that term. Having land conserved does not mean it's gonna push farmers off the land because they can continue to farm on conservation land, so they're.
Right, and then at the last meeting, we had talked about Ryan, you creating some language to define those terms and putting those, I believe, in the land use section, which will help to say. This is what this means and this is what that means, should bring clarity to maybe some of these issues here that people are concerned about.
Yep, I've done that, and we'll have that in the draft of the next.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to Patty at timestamp 58:30. Talks about the conservation commission. She brings up the conversation group, which is based on strong town movements that has discovered that aspects that make town more attractive are conservation based. She cites West Windsor, Brownsville, Butcher and Pampered as an example of conservation and recreation can serve as an economic driver to support more apparent indicators. And I guess she's speaking about the Mount of Scotney recreation area tied in with the link that immediately that the Brownsville store is there. And then she, on the next timestamp below that, she reminded the audience, the landowners already face some restrictions on what they can do with their properties, such as bylaws related to outdoor lighting. Talks about the astronomy club, the value of clear night sky. And the Weathersfield natural strengths and the impact of conservation practicing on tourism and the importance of Weathersfield rural characters. If I move down to Naomi Morse, she says she just voices support for the town plan. And then I think I'm just gonna jump down unless anybody has, she just summarizes in saying that she feels that the people who created it are more knowledgeable than she is and have the best interest of the town. Lawrence Turner, a timestamp 10210, he commends us for the plan. Whole plan envelopes why we moved here, the rural nature of town, with an eye toward the future, an eye towards things more important in the area. I strongly support moving forward. Susan Weidler, in favor of adoption of the plan. She found it easy to understand, well illustrated, well written, and does not raise more questions than it answers. She's concerned that any evocation in the language will be a problem for us in the future, opens up some challenges. I acknowledge this is ambitious, but that's what we need to move forward. She liked the idea that we have at the end, we assigned specific committees to help, or commissions to help draw more people to serve on committees and outline tasks. Todd Henninger, he was language that regarding the maps, and Ryan, you've already met with him, so we'll see your response to that. And then he talks about conservation land, earth resources, and prospective conditions, and then developed land, mixed use, prospective conditions. He thought the plan was pretty good. Support of the written section with the following changes. Then he went over comments provided in writing. Todd talked about the future land use maps, and then I'm not going to stop there, Ryan, because you've already met with him and had a discussion, and you'll review those comments with him. Sophia Lakachek at timestamp 1/11/06, clarifying the beginning of the document that is a living document will be reviewed and updated regularly to allow it to be more living than we would normally think of it. She expressed the value of the document and the changes that were approved from the previous document. Sophia communicated the importance of being careful with the maps, where we want to be conserving and tell owner the land that they can't do X, Y, Z, and I think some of that will be answered when we define those terms. She thought it was important that we find balance, being careful how restrictive we are with starting. Won't let me become that. She moved here to avoid those heavy zoning restrictions. Willis submitted written comments, but I thought we went through those, Ryan.
We have done those, yeah.
Okay,
He just spoke and wanted to confirm we received them.
okay, and then Paul Austin. He wanted to commend us. He thinks the plan is very well done. It supports a lot of what the people have asked for and what they want to see for the town. And then we move to the next page, 184, and this is what we talked about at the last meeting of kind of reworking this diagram to make it more understandable. And then I'm going to move to page 186 from Dr. Aldous Murray. I think these are the new comments from the last meeting, Ryan, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think these were submitted at the hearing, the first hearing where he spoke.
But we haven't gotten to them yet, I don't think.
Yeah, 316. Right.
I don't think we've gone through them though.
Well, I don't think we
have
have,
not
no,
gone-
we just read his verbal ones, which are different than these.
Yeah.
So he gives us some causes and some concerns and recommendations. On habitat fragmentation. Require causes the required permanent condition development should compromise the size of the forest block for the integrity of habitat connections. His concern is it introduces wildlife habitat regulation that was permitting restricting normal land use. And his recommendation that we remove it entirely and replace it with encourage voluntary conservation of forest blocks through education incentives rather than regulatory conditions. Development restriction based on future land use map. The cause is update the zoning map and district to restrict development areas of need for protective or shared value resources concern. Future land use map can become tools to limit property rights without compensation. Recommendation. He is suggesting the future land use mapping is as advisory rather than regulatory limitations. Access driveways consolidation requirements, limit new access point and consolidate driveways along arterial and collector roads. This could limit subdivision opportunities and increase costs for landowners. And he would like us to change the language to encourage shared access where practical and mutually agreed upon by landowners. Restriction on class 4 development. Cause discouraging development that relies on class 4 highways. His concern is large portions of rural Vermont will rely on class 4 roads for access. His recommendation would be remove entirely or replace with evaluate access conditions on a case-by-case basis while recognizing the historic role of class 4 roads in the rural settlement. Aquifer protection overlay cause create an aquifer protection.
Hey, Brad, rather than, are we gonna talk about these one by one?
Jump in anytime you
'Cause-
want. I'm just reading them and then
I hear
no one
ya.
was responding, so I just started, but just, hey, have comment. You want to back up? Sorry.
Well, it feels like we should, these are specific enough that it feels like we should probably do something about them, not just
Okay.
read them.
All
I
right.
don't know.
You
else?
want to start, Hank, somewhere?
I don't know if I wanna start, but I just don't wanna have to come back to. Unless we're planning, I mean, if we're planning to not make changes,
That's up to everyone.
right,
I want to simply point out that there are 5 pages of these.
Yes.
And that these discussions, for the most part, are discussions that this board has already had, so I would be very cautious on the amount of time spent on any one specific topic. Recognize where we are and
Yeah, that was actually going to be my comment at the end of this, Mike, that I feel like we've been over this ground and I appreciate Dr. Murray's comments, but for the last 18 months, we've been working on this thing and
yes,
with little input from outside, and I feel like we've covered most of this ground.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, you want me to read the rest of these? You want me to skip?
I don't think you need to read them
I
to
think
me
we should-
if we're not gonna talk about them.
Yeah, I think we should go down through them and if we're either gonna talk about one or just say, no, we've done this and this is where we are and next.
Yeah, so okay.
From the perspective of my documentation, if we just say, hey, you asked, does anyone have any change, does this result in any change to their discussion? And if not, then I'll just continue.
Okay, so does this result in any changes or discussion? These comments from Dr. Murray.
No, not for me.
Anybody else have any comments or want to make any changes?
Should we offer an explanation briefly why though?
Yes.
Do you want-
That's kind of what I was thinking was, it would, I mean, or.
Absolutely. So
The folks that-
exactly what Mike said. We've been
Yeah.
over this for the last year to 18 months and feel like we've addressed these concerns.
When I go through and provide the planning commission's
Response.
response, you want me to just do that and then we can review that at the next meeting, so you have something to look at, or do you want to have a discussion about each one right now?
Well, I think we're having a discussion about each commenter.
Okay.
And
So, for example, A, habitat fragmentation, the quote that he provided to require permit conditions for development. I think what he's referring to is an action item where we suggested that, the board consider looking at zoning bylaws to provide conditions for applications which would reduce forest habitat blocks. So it's not a law, obviously, the town plan, and it's not a requirement, it's I think what he's referring to is an action item for the board to have a discussion about that subject.
Right.
And then it says it introduces wildlife habitat regulation into local permitting, and we already have a fair bit of precedent for.
And I thought some of that we wanted to get rid of. Maybe only the deer wintering area part, maybe I'm wrong, but it certainly feels like we wanna have a discussion about this.
Yeah, and I think in the same section, it talks about trying to refine that, so it's a little bit more.
Right, so that's a future action item for us in the bylaws action.
So I'll provide that in the response.
Okay. So does anybody have any other comments based on Dr. Murray's 5 pages here? Hearing none, I'm move on to the next set of comments.
No, I think we're on B now.
I kind of feel like it's
So you
worth,
just did A, now it's B.
I feel like it's worth kind of walking through these quickly.
Okay.
Because
Happy to
it's-
do that.
Because it may lead to less discussion later. Right?
Absolutely, so B.
The future land use map is, again, it's a guide, it doesn't have any real power.
And I think that this discussion we had for A and now for B is a little bit similar.
Yes.
A lot of the answers to these may be sort of like, the
Well,
town
to
plan
me, it
is,
seems like he's answered his own question on B, where he has a recommendation, the mapping is advisory, well, the town
Yeah.
plan is advisory. And so
Yes,
on the
the
future
mapping
land
is
plan. So it's
advisory,
really
yeah.
advisory, so it's,
Future land use map
It's
is
done.
advisory, it's not regulatory.
And-
his suggestion is that we did put a note on the map that they're advisory only. And I mean, I guess could be a valid point, because if somebody that doesn't know, when they look at a future land use map and not having all the background, they could say, oh, wow, does this mean this is gonna happen? Without reading through the town plan, they may not realize, so maybe that is a
And,
valid point.
and I think in one of the, I completely agree. One of the things that we may find useful is trying to be a little bit more clear, use simpler language,
Right.
put things like that on the map. Because you look at a map and you look at your little parcel and like, if it's divided by two things, maybe that's the way it's gonna be. Well, actually, that's just fodder for a discussion later.
So maybe when you revise the maps, Ron, you could put that disclaimer on the bottom of the map saying, you need to remember, these are advisory, they're not regulatory.
I'm gonna restate my original concern that there's 5 pages. And that we're probably already having more discussion than is necessary on most of these.
Well, I tried to move on, but I walked back to B, so.
No, I know what you mean, but like C, access driveway consolidation requirements. Limit new access, could limit subdivision opportunities. No, it does not. It just requires a different approach to.
Right.
Access, that's
And,
all.
and some of those things are gonna be, when we get to the subdivision, bylaws, the rewrite of that, we're gonna talk about that. stuff.
That's where
and that's really useful to the town, so I think that's. Limited, having one driveway for 3 houses is really handy.
I agree,
So-
and you're not gonna have 3 cuts if you don't have line of sight. It's not gonna happen.
So moving right along,
D,
Mike,
yes.
right?
Yes, yes.
All right, does anybody have any comments on D?
We have a town class 4 road policy that discusses the development along class 4 roads.
That's what I thought.
Dictates.
Okay,
Your town rights away.
Aquifer Overlay Protection District, any comments?
I agree, they can place broad restrictions on private land. If you happen to own one on a aquifer, I think there's only 2 aquifers, right, Howard?
Right,
Aren't there only 2 aquifer areas in all of Weathersfield?
I mean, there are other areas that are backed as potential, but they're not under the protection, there's either the 2, right?
Yeah.
And as we look at increased density, they might end up being really, really.
Well, and both of those aquifer areas are significant water systems.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not just they're not wells.
Right,
I mean, they are wells,
we
but they're
talked
huge.
about finishing up our Aquifer Overlay bylaw too.
Yes.
River corridor floodplain expansion, comments?
State regulatory, Howard did most of this. I think most of this stuff is state and federal language.
Right.
There's not much we can do about it.
FEMA doesn't do a very good job. That's why it's changing.
Okay, G, vegetative buffer restoration requirements.
I don't have a problem with the way we wrote it.
I think it is voluntary or incentive based.
I think we used the word encourage or something in the town,
But
but,
again, it's a town plan, it's not regulatory.
okay,
H.
formula business restrictions. I think he's saying what we want to, he's inferring what we are saying by limit formula business and prevent script development. Well, it's just another way to say that.
Yeah, I think we are trying to discourage strip development, and if they wanna make it look like something in town, that's fine. Which I think we talked about and came to that conclusion.
Yes, thank you. Dark sky lighting standards, costly compliance requirement. I'd have to disagree with that, having, prepared lighting plans for 30 years. making them dark sky compliant, there's no extra cost with that. It's just a different type of fixture that they manufacture for that, so.
And it's not retroactive, so
it's
it's not
not
like people need to
retroactive.
go change their light
Right.
bulbs,
Right,
so,
your old light bulbs are fine.
yeah.
Expanded conditional use review. Comments there?
Folks, again, we're talking about the town plan. And these comments that we made, character of the area and community facilities impact. They matter, but they also differ depending on where you are.
Right.
So that gets handled within the zoning bylaws, not the town plan, but you have to consider those things.
Right. So this is almost a dive deeper down into the bylaws than it is to the town.
It really is.
Okay, then I'm gonna move down to strategic recommendations. There's a number of concerns he has there. Liability concerns.
Strategic recommendations, property rights impact review. Oh
I
my,
think we do worry about that.
but I think that's what happens with your zoning bylaws. Again, that's your regulatory implementation tool.
And this is not a regulatory document that we're given.
No,
Liability concerns.
Oh, I have a question though. Of the fifth bullet, identify how the view from the road, what does that mean? Was established as a screening criteria for owner uses, is that an art bylaws or something, or is
I think
that
he's diving in
from
the
some?
comments
Yeah,
again, but
okay.
Yep.
If it needs to be mentioned in the old town plan about that, but.
Yeah. I don't remember, it sounds familiar, I don't remember. Moving on, sorry. Great.
Okay, liability concerns. He has a number of concerns here about regulatory taking. He makes a statement that if the town plan imposes restrictions that substantially limit lawful access, use of economic value of private land, the town exposes itself to significant legal liability under the takings law. Absolutely
I
no.
disagree.
I don't agree with any of that.
No.
It's again,
That's
it's
the
the town
basis.
plan's not doing that.
the first zoning seminar that I went to, Judge Durkin, I think was his name. Talked about how land use regulations are an infringement on landowner rights. And they have to be taken very carefully and balanced in such a way that, you know, what I do on my land doesn't infringe on your rights on your land, you know, your right to enjoy your land. And that wasn't to be taken lightly. That was his whole point. That was what he opened with. But it is a fact, but that is not what this is talking about. These parts of the Constitution are talking about, like if the town wanted to put in a new road somewhere, and you take a property under eminent domain, such as the Romaine Tenney property in the Interstate 91. Okay, those are, but that's not what's going on with any of this.
I think we're good on the rest of it, in my opinion, the statutes, I think we're, that's my, I feel like we could move.
So Hank, you're moving down to the bottom of this here where he talks about various statutes.
I think we can move, I don't need to talk about those parts. I feel like we're
Everybody else.
excited about forestry and agriculture and stuff that I would.
Ryan, do you have enough to respond?
Yes.
Okay.
Good job.
Moving on to page 192. Susan Weidler, instead of me reading this, I'm just gonna ask, does anybody have any concerns about this?
What Susan Wilder
Yes.
has written?
Yes. 192, Mike.
Page 1.
First of all, 4-7, when did we stop taking comments? Was that 4-7?
No, the last hearing we had, the last meeting was 4/20, and we had comments then.
Okay,
And then we added to the
that's
bottom.
all, I just wanna make sure that we're not Cause we stopped
420.
receiving basically comments and
At the last
Testimony.
meeting, at the last meeting.
yes, we're in deliberative session, so anything dated past that time.
I don't think we can just set them.
Okay, no comments, move on to 194 from Mr. Hindinger.
Wait a minute, the use of shall, Susan Wilder's, the use of shall in the plan.
She's supporting the use of shall.
Yes. And she's correctly doing it also. Those words were used very necessarily. So, you know, it wasn't taken lightly. I wanted to say that because August had mentioned that same thing.
Yes.
The other thing about shall, he says it shows up 70 times, but if you search, the majority of it is in the statutes that say the town shall do this in the town plan, or there shall, like, in the actions, like the planning commission shall review a bylaw and have this discussion.
And it does show up in the wireless communication section.
Right.
Because I did that because of the PUC requirements.
Right, and that's intended to be a.
That was absolutely intended based on advice that we received.
Right.
Okay, done with Susan?
Yep.
So Mr. Hindinger is kind enough to give us 2 pages of comments here.
Who's this Hindinger guy?
It's not a few, it's not a few, it's a few,
Oh, I thought you were gonna say it's a whole lot.
a few. They're very specific. And we could save time if you wanna glance through and just say you would like to adopt them all. That would be to flip right through.
My notes say that it's fine with me if we do. Except I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 line numbers.
I think he's saying there's only 2 pages.
Only two.
Oh, 2 pages. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're in agreement.
Maybe-
2 pages and 8 comments.
Yeah.
Do you have a permit for this?
Do what?
So
Do you have a permit for
for
this?
bringing us all back here to reality, because we don't want to be here at 9 o'clock tonight. I read through most of these and I agreed with most of them. And I was thinking, I was gonna ask if everyone agrees to have Ryan look at this and see how we could easily incorporate that to make what Todd has written work with our plan. Everybody agrees with that. I don't hear any no's, so we're going to move on to.
One more second.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
just give yourself a minute here.
We're the,
You're the slow bus?
I mean, I
Yes.
was trying to figure out how nice way to say that for Todd, because it's really just me.
You don't have to say something nice to me.
No, I was trying to say something nice about the 2 of us that were slow, but I couldn't figure out how to say that in a nice way, so I was gonna say nothing, but Brian did it for me. Well, my note's so old that I don't know what it's referring to, but I like the comments.
I on your first page, Tom, 3rd bullet, then beginning at line 517,
Yeah.
and you struck out that are naturally undevelopable.
Right.
That was specific language that we kind of liked, and the reason we liked that was because it is those natural things that are already in place that we do identify as not supporting development. So it's not that we don't, you change it to where we do not want development, it's not a matter of whether we want it or not, it's not suitable for it. By its natural design or natural character.
Mhm.
So I kind of like the old language there.
And my comment there was basically just to say the examples we use of steep slopes or wetlands.
Yeah.
As there being something natural about that would prevent development, is I'm telling you that it's very easy to develop wetlands. They're flat areas, you dump a bunch of gravel, gone. Steep hillsides, we have projects like in Ludlow where we blast great big roads straight up the mountains. So it was my point that there's nothing natural that protects those. It's a decision that the board makes with this plan and with the zoning bylaws. That was That was my point. If you wanna protect those things, say so, but don't expect them to do it themselves because of some natural capacity that they have.
Yeah, I like that.
Um. Okay, it's town plan, okay, I'm good. Because the protection actually becomes regulatory in the zoning bylaws and we can. I guess what I'm thinking of is development that I've seen in other places that actually uses the wetland and works with the wetland. To allow development and the wetland to coexist, which is can be a good thing. So we can create that in zoning bylaws, similar to the agricultural prime land stuff that we did, where we can look at it and say, well, there's ways to do things that work. And but still have strong language that says, no, you're not gonna build there.
So if you want to leave Todd's language in there?
I worked through it, and I'm good with it. It becomes regulatory in bylaws, not here.
I won't rush you, so take your time to read this. See the wheels turning at the end, so
I'm almost there.
take it back, please.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Yep.
Anybody else? Thanks, Todd, for your comments.
Well, thanks for taking that.
197 page. Colleen Appleton. So this is back to Mark, right?
Yeah, so this was their response after I sent them the second. I guess the most recent draft to address their comments, and this was just to confirm with the board that he had reviewed it and
And we meet all statutory requirements.
everything, yes.
Okay.
And the next section is the checklist that confirms that.
Which goes on for 8-9 pages. Hey, does anybody have any questions about Mark's review? Okay. Then I'm going to move to page 209, and Ryan, help me here.
This is your comments that we went over sort of in line when we were reviewing the plan at the last meeting.
Okay, these are the language changes I suggested.
Yes.
Okay. I can't remember if we agreed that this was, I think we agreed that this was fine. And
Yeah, we agreed on
that
those
was okay.
changes.
If everybody's good with that, then we're gonna move to page 211. Which addresses the comments from the last meeting of April 20th, 2026. Okay, everybody up, caught up with me? Okay, great. So Patty Harrison had a number of comments. Does anybody have any response to those? It's gonna be reading every line here.
Okay.
The last section where it says in reference to the future land use map, is there a place on the map? This is something that Todd and I had discussed on the future land use map and the land use planning map. And we basically disagreed that the future land use map that is proposed is much simplified. And then if you look at the land use planning map, it does show where current commercial development is, and basically we're not making a proposition to expand or reduce those areas. It's the village and
Okay,
other things. So it basically the current land use map and the land use planning map are same in terms of the commercial development.
okay. Anybody have any other comments on Patty's comments? No? Okay, move on to Dave Fuller. So I'm not sure here, not much of this pertains to the town plan, except maybe the first sentence or his first comment. And we're going to use the new maps.
So that would be a no to the question.
Right. No, there's no,
Number 2 would be a no. Number 3 would be a no. Number
Correct.
4, I'm not aware of that.
I'm sorry, are you on page 211?
Yes,
Yes.
we're with Dave Fuller comments now, sorry.
Okay, I just didn't see numbers, so.
it is right there in numbers, first comment,
Quoted
second
questions.
comment, third comment, fourth comment.
Let's see, so the 4th comment, I can, no. The 5th one,
Were we CC'd on that?
I'm sorry.
Were we CC'd on that?
I don't
The
know.
fifth question, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th question, were we CC'd on that?
For those people that are strictly.
No, that's 4. I mean, that's
1,
6.
2, 3, 4,
2,
5.
3.
4 is about the farm service.
4 is,
agent.
I'm sorry. 4. That one, were we CC'd on 4?
Or he basically brought it up at the first hearing date and just sort of said that that was the case, that he had brought the stuff to the select board.
Okay.
It wasn't necessarily the planning commission, and it's not really relevant to.
Right.
the board.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, is are you aware I have submitted documents? Were we CC'd on those documents? No.
All right, and then,
Yeah, the planning commission has not seen that.
But frankly, the Farm Service Agency has nothing to do with mapping those
Yeah.
wetland delineations or soil things anyway, so it's a moot point.
right, okay, his last comment there. Much more strict standard, no,
Zoning bylaws.
it's back to the bylaws again.
Yeah.
Anything else for Mr. Fuller's comments?
Nope.
Okay, moving on to August Murray's comments of the 20th. He's asking again for the summary of the proposed town plan. And we haven't had a discussion about that yet. We did have a very brief, because I did a summary. I wrote a summary.
The truth comes out.
Yeah, sorry. So I wrote a summary and I sent it to Ryan last week to have his just look at it to see, does it pass the, from a different perspective, because I put the 2 documents down and said, okay, what is the difference? And I tried to keep it to 3 pages. Something like
For
that.
us, yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to keep it pretty succinct, and we can share it with everybody tonight. Do you have a copy on your laptop?
I do, yeah.
So we could share it and we could discuss it tonight if you want to read it. Ryan can print out some copies. Or whatever we want to do, but I think we.
Let's, it might make sense if we have time to, then we can do it, or at the next meeting when I have our responses typed up to these and the changes made.
That's maybe the time to do it. Okay, that way everybody can look at it and come back to it.
Well, or at least get through what we've got
Yeah,
first.
I guess the other point on that is the board, if putting out the summary wouldn't necessarily hold up the board's decision to send it to the select board and get that process going. A summary could be put out after that was made.
I would agree. The next comment, the second comment, anybody have any response to that?
The old plan clearly separated vision from regulation.
It might be worth adding a paragraph in the intro to explain that this is not a regulatory document, this is sort of the intention. Just because that I think addresses 90% of his neighbors.
Because I'll bet if you poll the general public, people go, they would think the town plan is regulatory. We should say it's a vision document. And I think that that's real important, that people understand that this is a vision. It's not meaning we're gonna do all the things, but we might not do any of it.
But we did have to consider how this document is used by the PUC. And from that, we did have to draft language that gave direction to them
Which is,
of what we want, what we don't want from
which
them.
sounds very regulatory.
It does, but it's not, yeah.
I think in a paragraph I can get into the nuance of it's not regulatory, but it is in some respect. I think I can shake that out pretty.
And maybe in that same paragraph, you can say it also provides guidance to the PUC, which is a real important distinction, I think, because that we spent an awful lot of time on working on that, like a couple of meetings at least.
And we did because it's decisions that lead to development in the town that is not regulated by the zoning bylaws or your local government. It's PUC that's handling that stuff.
Okay, and then August looked at the length of the plan. And the table of contents. He's concerned that we lost the historic background of Weathersfield. That's not in the document.
Was there some discussion about the history part that we did end up taking out, kind of getting turned into something else by somebody else?
Well, we had discussed at the very beginning of this process, taking a lot of the information that was being pulled out and putting it in an appendix.
Right.
There is a paragraph or two at the beginning, historical context, that's sort of like right at the very beginning, which is reduced. But I mean, my feeling was it was pretty long and it is captured in the old plan, which is part of the public records, and it's all there. If we wanted to produce a historical document that sort of goes over this stuff, it wasn't like exhaustive enough on its own to be like, this is our history. But I think the important parts were sort of pulled on into that.
That was part of our discussion at the beginning, is that there was way too much superfluous material in there.
Right.
You know, we don't want a 300-page long document that no one's gonna wade through.
Yeah, so there is some stuff, either way, if we wanted to include that information, I think we could do it after the fact as like phase two of this, because we've already discussed how we're gonna be coming back to the town plan, and if that's something that's really lacking and important, we can put it in that.
Okay,
About the table of contents though, that was something that Andrea had brought up too. Do you wanna see all the different sections in there, or?
no, I like it the way it is. I think it's too overwhelming if you have that. That's my opinion, but I've also been staring at this thing for 18 months.
It's hard for me to break from the idea that I would be reading it as a PDF that I could search. If you're reading the printed copy, you know, having a little more goes a long way. But I don't know.
I could be swayed.
I mean, it's sort of effort versus, you know, how many printed copies are going to get read, I guess.
I think the it would, so the table of contents is automatically generated, and if all of those section titles are included as like I don't know what the word is, but linked subtitles in the Word document, then it should automatically pull them. And I can't remember if it did, and I just deleted them out to make it cleaner. Or if not, I'll just have to go through each one and change that heading style so that it shows up in the table of contents.
What's the pleasure here
I
tonight?
can show it to you and you can decide whether it's.
I don't know. I mean,
I go back to what we said at the beginning of this, like Howard just brought up. We said we got rid of a lot of stuff that seemed like not fluff, but it just seemed like we wanted to bring just more of an essence of the document.
It seemed like we talked more about where we've been than where we were going in the old.
But still,
Yes,
planning
thank you.
the process is forward thinking, so it's not to review what we did 100 years ago, it's.
oh yeah, I'm on the same page on the historical side that we could do a little less of that, but I was thinking more about the table of contents part where the additional detail does help you get where you want to go and read the section you're interested in. I don't know, I see value there. But
Well,
I don't
at the
care
next
that
meeting,
much.
at the next meeting, I'll provide it, I'll expand it and you can see and decide. I think, I feel like it was in there and then I cleaned it up because it made it look nicer and it went from 3 pages of table of contents to a half page, but.
So if we turn to a page and a half, I guess we all could be happy.
Yeah, I'll turn it out and then you can decide for the next meeting.
Okay, that work?
Good, it sounds like a good
Okay.
network project for,
And then August also had the concern, I'm gonna read this one because I think it's something we should discuss publicly, that not enough people knew that there was a hearing going on. And I take really great issue with that because all the proper notices were there. The meetings have been warned publicly on the town website for the last, how long have we been working on this? 18 months, 2 years?
Yeah.
So I'm really struggling with, agreeing with this.
We also put out front porch forum posts multiple times throughout leading up to the meeting. I think we went above and beyond what is normal, to try and turn out as much as we can. And what is referring to, the room was not that full, but you know, from our experience, unless there's something really, really upsetting to residents, that was a pretty good turnout. We've had other like specific outreach meetings, and stuff on the weekend to try and generate interest in there has been one.
6 people?
I think
Both
most
people were
people.
my parents.
Earlier in our packet where these comments were, there was also a comment about not proper notice to towns. You and I had a conversation about that. And I don't think it ever happened, and now I don't think we can do it, but I think we haven't. And that was, well, I think you're okay, but I think, let me say what it was. The receipts for the notifications that went to the other towns. There should have been a motion in the hearing to make those exhibits. And yeah, and we never got there, but we do have them, correct?
Yeah, and we can make that an exhibit if you want to right now. I don't think there's a reason we can't. We're in public hearing.
We're still, yeah, the hearing hasn't been closed.
Yeah,
I think just a note in there that those receipts are on file. I mean, there's no sense in adding another 2 pages of people
Copies of the
responding saying
return.
no comment.
Yeah.
You know, that way we've covered it, but
But you did it.
yeah, all the towns received it. I have the records to show that the town, the
All right, so
state.
maybe you could just add a statement there
A statement under his comment, yes.
that, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on August comments here, gentlemen? And then patients, if anybody raises their hand online, I'm having a hard time seeing that. Thank you.
I'll let you know.
Thank you. None, anything all good here?
Yep.
Okay, Rick Bates, back to
dark sky good.
dark sky stuff, so I think we're on the same page.
Yep.
And then I'm gonna move down back to Mr. Binger, and I'm guessing, Todd, that this comment here that you met with Ryan and this comment that you have from last meeting, you both talked to Ryan and
Yeah, we did, so, and I think because you're getting close on finishing the comments, if you just wanna skip. Then I had put some sketches on the map, we could talk about that last if you want.
okay,
The last page in the packet is the map with notes on it.
excellent, okay, we'll do that, that sounds like a great idea. And then Susan Wagler. We actually talked about that a little bit, but we didn't do anything with it, because I remember when we looked at the housing numbers, we all said, oh, the seasonal home number, and then we said, okay.
Yeah.
We moved on from there.
But you can't control it.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I think I would love to do something about that. What should we do?
I don't know.
Where's Susan?
Okay,
I'm not sure what we would do.
any other thoughts on that, or are we good for now?
Good.
Okay, and then,
Maybe some.
if I move down to page 214, Dr. Murray submitted additional comments in April 20th. There are 7 pages here.
Most of this is redundant, isn't it? We've already covered it again.
Right, so number 1, plan versus regulation, I'll add that paragraph about how the plan is to be used regulatory or not.
Right, I think that would clear up the confusion.
missing implementation framework. I don't think that's true. We have all the action items laid out in the.
Yeah.
More so than ever.
We did a better job than the last one, but I don't know.
Any comments on number 3?
There's no 3. The quote that the old language that he quoted, that's a good line. That sounds real nice. I'm not sure.
Surprised if there isn't a sentence in there that.
Yeah,
reflects that.
It feels like
Could you double check that, Ryan?
Yeah.
Cause that is a good, you're right, Hank, that is
it's a good line.
Yeah.
I mean, it might not hurt to shove it back in there somewhere that makes
Yep.
sense. Unless we have something similar, in which case. I
And you guys should be thinking about this section probably more than anything. So that goes along with the future land use map and the timing of development that you'd like to see at least express in the town plan.
There is a section, in section 1.1. Capital budgets, programs, zoning bylaws, and subdivision regulations that allow phasing of large projects, examine impacts of town facilities are valuable tools the town can employ to manage the rate of development. Controlling the rate of development during good economic times becomes necessary when its rate threatens to overwhelm the town's ability to provide services and maintain its infrastructure.
You're saying the same thing that the old language said, just with more words.
I guess so. And honestly, I feel like this was old language too.
Yeah, that was old language. I
It
remember
is,
that.
right? Okay, do you wanna look into that and maybe we talk about refining that a little bit?
Refine that paragraph I just read.
Yeah,
Do you want me to?
I think we might have just struck that other sentence from it because together they were redundant.
Right. Well, one sort of interesting tidbit is the language we have feels is said in sort of a restrictive way, whereas this line is sort of a balance, feels more like balancing.
That was the only thing that popped up when I did control find and rate of development, but I feel like there's other things, so I guess. Do you wanna amend that in any specific way, or do you want me to just revisit it and provide something at the next?
I like Hank's suggestion of reinserting that.
Just insert that line, yeah,
I mean, that feels the easiest.
and I'll do a search to see if it comes up somewhere else, 'cause
Okay.
I feel like that's something.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, okay.
Page 4. With the comments here.
Four feels to me like the vision, we've got the vision document versus the zoning bylaw situation. Where I think if understood. The 3 buckets that we've got land in now works well in terms of vision
Right.
versus lots of.
Super defined categories.
Right. So I think this is like the.
Okay, anybody else have any thoughts on number 4? How about number 5?
Again, this says there's a good line. The town will promote, protect, and assist agriculture as a functional sector of our local economy. That's a great line. I don't mind putting that back in somewhere. I feel like in general, we support agriculture and
This is the definition of conservation issue.
yeah.
Yeah.
So but that line is a good, like, that sounds nice. That's a good line.
Well, but let's skip ahead a little bit to the zoning bylaws, okay? And zoning bylaws are state statute very restrictive on what we can do with agricultural bylaws. In fact, there's not a whole lot you can do. Okay, agriculture is kind of protected. Crop just right out straight. So whatever, it doesn't matter what the town plan says. The regulatory tool is the zoning bylaws and Title 24/117. That doesn't provide a lot of room for regulation on agriculture. That, the Title 24-117 is municipal zoning statutes.
Saying nice stuff in the town plan, I would just say that saying nice stuff in the town plan is a good thing too.
But his point is, this is conservation, this is about conservation, not agriculture, right? So it's kind of separated anyway.
Yeah, and I think the broader point is that the old plan was very farming friendly, and he's saying this one is less so, but I don't think
That's not
the
true.
case.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no,
So do
I
we
mean,
want to, I mean, Hank, you want to reinsert that?
we don't need to, I don't think there's we don't need to put,
I'll take a look and see if there's a natural spot for a fit.
I don't wanna burden you with lots of
Right.
little fiddly
That-
things.
that's-
It's a good line, I don't think it hurts to have it back
If
in
we
here.
make it flow, I won't spend
And
more
it-
than a few minutes.
Yeah,
to make it.
and if the plan doesn't appear as agricultural friendly as the previous one, then I don't think we're intending to be less friendly toward agriculture.
Right.
So, and we've all been reading this 1,000 times.
Okay, number 6.
The last plan had a really long transportation section, and the vast majority of it was theory about how transportation planning works. Which is all good information to just know how it works, but it wasn't visionary or any kind
And
of-
some of that theory has changed too.
Yeah. So that was one of the things we had discussed. Maybe it makes sense as an appendix, but we didn't go.
So his point is that he'd like us to reintroduce the language affirming access.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that sentence.
Any thoughts down the other end of the table?
I don't think we disagree with the sentence if having that
Yeah,
sentence
so
in
see
there.
what you can-
I think it adds much, but yeah, I don't think we're trying to reduce access or like take care of the roads less well. I don't. Yeah, but it's one of the reasons.
Okay.
Where would that land, that town recognizes the importance of maintaining reasonable access to private property?
The only place I can think of is maybe where we talk about, I don't know, remember the terms, the primary roads and the collector roads, and how reduced driveways on those major roads, is a good idea.
From a planning perspective.
So,
it's a good idea.
you know, we recognize the importance of maintaining reasonable access. In spite of the goal to reduce the number of driveways on Route 5 or something.
Okay,
Right,
See how quick he is?
he's wicked good.
Yes.
number 7. So the removal of the Health and Human Services chapter, and I know Ryan, we talked a lot about that while we did that, so you just want to recap again for us?
Yeah, so that chapter was basically an inventory of healthcare facilities and organizations and different things that wasn't really relevant to Weathersfield planning.
Right.
All of that information had changed and didn't seem worthwhile to go figuring out where the doctor's office
Because
is.
he's asking us that we need that to maintain statutory completeness, but the regional planning went through this and said, we're good.
Yeah, that's not true, and we didn't do away with everything. We merged it with the facilities and utilities chapter. We talked about human services and the services that the town. So we elaborated on that sort of subject in a more, I think, useful and planning
All
centered.
right, so can you make that in the response there? Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 8, the energy planning depth. I'm not really sure what the objective here in this with these comments here. He wants to put the analytics components to support regional state consistency and long-term planning integrity.
I feel like we need a more, I don't think that's specific enough to do anything with.
Well, one of the things, like when we were comparing our energy section and West Windsor's, which was the big energy section, they drew on a lot of data, and I didn't think all of it was that relevant to on the local scale. And one of the things that we have as an action item is to update the data and inventories of what the town has and is using. So I think this, more detail and analysis of energy usage is something that would come out of those studies, but we don't have that.
Is that like how much electricity the town hall uses, or what's the data? Not that we need to talk about this now.
I think it's more
Sorry.
like the population and energy needs and
Doesn't feel.
but I guess we probably wouldn't get local specific townwide, but those like town facilities probably, but even that doesn't seem like it's the energy section as much as the utilities facility section.
I feel like this is a move on, so I don't feel like we're gonna have a lot of effect on
I'm just wondering what's the use of all
policy,
this information.
on like
You
Green
know, I'm
Mountain
thinking
Power.
it's like worthless,
If we don't.
I don't mean to sound flippant, but it seems like worthless information in the town plan that if someone's really interested in this, they can reach out to regional planning and figure it out.
Yeah, I feel like we should just move on from this one. I don't.
Okay. Say future study, right? Um,
9. 9. This is like a visionary versus bylaws thing. I feel like that's true. What's this 9?
yes,
9.
I'm sorry, Howard, 9.
Yeah, it's, I mean, these are statute terms. And these, they're state definitions or state terms.
Okay, so let's just take a break and
Right.
have Rika, hi Rika.
Hi. I'm a little bit probably late jumping into this game, but is there anything in the plan that mentions that we don't really want any of these big data centers in town? It's probably more of a zoning thing to say, no, we can't have those. We prohibit those in town. But is there anything that says this is our inclination not to welcome these things or not to, embrace them? And I don't even know if that's appropriate to go into the town plan, frankly, but.
A bylaw.
We're not taking questions anymore. We're in deliberation.
Oh, okay. Well, it was just a general question, so.
But we're not in questions. We closed questions at the
Okay.
last.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so back to number 9. What do we want to do with this there, folks?
I guess all those terms occur in state statute. We're not making them up, and they're not.
Things like rural character we have defined pretty specifically with a bullet list of 9 or 10 items. So there's a brief sort of description and then examples to make it more clear.
I guess his point was undefined standards may be used in future regulatory decisions.
But
And it creates uncertainty for landowners and applicants, but again, I go back to,
town plan versus bylaws.
right,
So. Number 10.
any other comments on number 9? No, okay,
Well, I guess
whoops, sorry.
what he might be getting at is, and there's nothing in the bylaws, I think it might be in the subdivision regulations that a project is not or I don't know how to say it, is in alignment with the town plan. And so I think that's where he gets concerned that if a project has to be in alignment with the town plan, that there's lots of places that you can point to that's sort of subjective. Like if it does, does a proposed development compromise rural character, is saying that's subjective, and it is subjective, but it's been defined as detailed as I've seen.
So your suggestion is,
I'm just saying that when we say this not relevant because it's not regulatory, it's not directly regulatory unless a regulation refers to it and says that a project needs to be aligned with that. And so I don't think we have in the zoning bylaws anything that says that, but I feel like just sort of maybe just a vague memory, but I
No,
think
you're right, it's one of our review criteria in the development review board. This does the proposed development comply with the town plan? That's one of the questions that we ask.
And so you answer that by. Someone has to make that call.
But so far, it's been my experience that all of the proposed development has like absolutely clearly been in conformance with the town plan. We haven't had any challenging projects. The challenging projects we've had are like more like, do we meet the setbacks or not? Does this meet this exact use or not? But not a big project that would challenge something with the town plan. So we haven't tackled that yet.
and the only term that he's referring to that I think is subjective like that is the rural character, which is defined very specifically. Things like shared values, that's just, I don't know, a word that I use to say that this plan was adopted by the select board of the voters and, had public input, and their shared values, even if even if there's a minority that doesn't agree. This is basically what the town has come together to propose and adopt. So when it gets adopted, this will be the plan that has been adopted by the representatives of the people. So that's where the term shared values, I think, sort of comes from.
Mike?
Well, I'm trying to tread lightly because I just said no questions. But this question is for Mr. Henninger. And based on what he just said, and Todd, are you with me?
I'm listening to you.
Oh, okay. In light of what you just said, in your review, you've done a great job of reviewing this town plan. Do you see your opinion changing moving forward on zoning projects and their compliance with the town plan?
I don't.
You do, okay. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Any other comments on number 9? No, okay, and then there's some conclusions here. So one of the things that goes back to what we talked about earlier, if I go to requested actions as bullet point number 3, reinforce the plan as non-regulatory guiding document of vision, which we're going to put that in the opening statement, which I think is a really good idea. That's a great comment. Anybody else have anything under conclusions or requested action they want to modify in the town plan? Hank, looks like your wheels are turning now.
No, they've skidded to a hollow.
Mike, any other thoughts?
I'm good.
Howard, you're good?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm gonna move on to the next page then. Key areas concerned by chapter, page and line from Dr. August Murray on 420. There's 7 pages here. So let's just do this by the page number here. So on page 2 of 7. I don't know where 1 of 7 is on each.
Wait a second. How are we going through this again? I'm on page 220.
2 of 7.
Oh, his 2 of 7, yep.
2 of 7,
Yeah.
I don't know where, yeah, I don't know where 1 of 7 is in his numbering, but I'm
Yeah,
guessing
down to
it
the-
was just an error
Page
on his
220.
numbering.
Yeah,
So I
okay.
was gonna just say, does anybody have any question, comments, or want to make changes based on page 2 of 7?
Yeah.
Going once?
I would You guys vote, can I make one comment?
Hang on just 1 second, Tom. Howard, you do? No? Todd, you were gonna offer a comment?
I was just gonna say that this talks about the forest block connections, being identified and protected.
I'm sorry, what page are you on? Are you on 2 of
It's
7?
on 207, yeah.
Page 2.
Number two.
That's number
Oh,
2.
sorry, hello.
You're just still on.
We're slow.
Go ahead, Todd.
When you get to number 2,
I'm at number 2.
the comment that you have here makes sense to me, that it's already there. I was just suggesting that the map doesn't identify those, so when we get to the map,
It'll
so
solve.
we'll look back at this comment.
Okay, that'll tie back into that. Okay? Moving on to number 3. We talked a lot about his first extraction sites required to have a restoration plan. We spent a lot of time talking, well, not a lot of time, but we did talk about that in detail. Thought that was important.
It's not regulatory burden beyond state permitting because
States do for
that is exactly what Act 250 does.
Right, excellent, you're done. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, anyway. Number 4. Hearing no comments, number 5.
Is that, do those who are writing this up need us to say something about number 4? That's what I keep being worried about. Do we feel like a response from us is necessary versus a response from you?
Well, there could be no comment.
Sure, I don't know.
If we have no comment, then we have no comment. Is that okay?
I can keep it short and you'll review those responses and.
Okay.
I mean, I guess no comment's fine. Also, it just feels like a short comment.
Well, then make a suggestion.
Also, this one I think is the same concept of regulatory versus not, and so I can explain it.
Okay, so we're on to number 5 now.
Okay.
We're back to the shared values. It's a vision document, so I'm still sticking with, in my mind, that versus. I mean, you could say it the other way, but I just.
Opens door to future zoning restrictions without clear limits. I think that's another way of saying we're gonna have a discussion about this. Right?
We can.
Talking about stuff's not wrong, so yeah. Maybe I'm speaking Latin.
Anybody want to suggest a response to number 5?
Well, I think when it comes to working with the bylaws, we probably should define that a little bit better, but I think that, again, that is a bylaw issue.
That this is a bylaw issue.
Yeah.
So the response is, the quote is saying that we're gonna talk about this later.
Right.
When the bylaw discussion comes up, so
I think we should
so it is a
clarify
true
that.
state, so it's nothing, August hasn't said anything that's not true, and we agree, I
You know,
mean,
we agree, just.
we all could impose some horrible restriction, but probably we won't, and if we do, we'll get pushback.
Does that mean we have shared values?
We'll find out, that's a discussion for later.
Okay. Wow. Chapter 2, natural resources, mandatory permit conditions for habitat impact. So this is again talking about revising the bylaws to do this, to the way I thought we framed this. Unless Ryan has.
Say that.
So, page 21, lines 777 and 780, amend local laws to require permanent conditions for development which compromise forest blocks. And I think that back to the discussion where we said we needed to look at that whole section in the bylaws to be sure that we would.
Well, yeah, there isn't a section in the bylaws that talks about forest blocks, and so this is coming from an action item to say we should have a discussion about forest blocks and.
Okay. There's the response.
Yeah.
Buffer shoreline expansion control, shoreline control expansion. We said consider adopting shoreline protection. And his was,
I think we should consider that, consider shoreline,
yeah, we should consider it. It's back to the bylaws again,
right,
okay?
it's a good discussion for later.
For overlay district, well, that's back to the bylaw. We haven't, it's mostly written. We just have never gotten around to finishing it and sending it out, right, Howard?
Yep,
Okay,
7 years now.
okay, scenic and preservation language issues. Preservation framing, expansion into regulation. So this, to me, again, is back to, we started working on the scenic views. And we only got so far on that. So we probably need to finish that discussion. And then Ryan, on number 10 here, when I go to the next page, it's cut off here. In the packet, I have 6 of 7, but I have half of 6 of 7, I don't have any 7 of 7 if that exists.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know, I haven't noticed that, this was just a scan of his pages. So either something went wrong with the scanner, and I can ask him for the remaining page.
Or maybe that was the end.
Yeah, or that's how.
I don't think he understands what the basis of that sentence that he put in quotes at the beginning, a potential conflict with private property rights. That was the exact reason for this language being put in there, was that property owners have a say in what happens on that Crown Point Road. It's a class 4 road. And what we ran into was a group of people that decided that they could just start walking out on Crown Point Road as a class 4 road and start cutting on people's property without talking to them first. And I met with all of the chairs 2 or 3 years ago of all the committees in this town to tell them that, and what this is about is making sure that before you go out on somebody else's land and start cutting, I don't care if it's class 4 road or not, you talk to the landowner. That's all. So that's what this language was about, and nothing more. And it's a lot of what a lot of his comments are. Is they're kind of based on like a misinformation or misinterpretation of the intended language and the intended outcome. And it's town plan. It is broad and it is vague.
Right, it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, does anybody else have any suggestions or edits or comments to Dr. Murray's list of concerns? Hearing none, let's move on to. Hold on, Hank.
No, this is just, line 921, there's a grammatical error.
921.
Yep, and that was part of number 8 on, when I read it, August number 8, I actually went back and I read the larger section, and on line 921, there's a grammatical error. I didn't write down what the actual error is, so that's not the most helpful.
Is that helpful from the version, the first here?
That's a good question, because it might be the version he's referring to in these
I can't keep up anymore.
Alright, I'm ready on line 921 typo.
We're just shuffling.
Good.
Oh, boy.
In the 3-4 graph,
Cause it's,
920, that line's blank.
well, he's talking about. Oh, he didn't say it on that one. Anyway,
Has to be the
sorry.
newer one.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the newer one or the old one.
Thank you, Hank.
Sorry.
Okay, and if we're done with that, I'm gonna let Ryan run through this very interesting sketch with details, notes, and definition, density, and all kinds of other wonderful things here.
So I think I'll give you sort of an overview of what we talked about, and then it'll be easier to explain when I provide an updated map that shows some of these changes. But so part of the I guess part of the confusion with the densities that are shown on here is that it came about as kind of a two-step process. Like we had identified on the future land use planning map where there aren't sort of restrictive features like wetlands and steep slopes, and where there are access on town roads. And we identified those areas in purple as, you know, where we kind of expect development to be occurring and where it's suitable. And the discussion wasn't based on density really, and more that's an area where I would expect to see more development happening, or it's more suitable to development and it doesn't compromise the values discussed in the plan. When the regional commission said put an acreage on them, we needed to provide an acreage that was greater than the density in the village, because they say we don't want development outside of the village, we want it in the village. And so we said, okay, well, it's going to be lower density outside of the village, but our 1 acre district, we're talking about pretty low density in general. So when we say high density is 1 acre, that's really low density. Almost the entire town, rural Rockingham, is on 1 acre. And their high density is like 72 square feet, you know, in the downtown area. So they're kind of using high density and medium density are very subjective. But what we were trying to do is like let's use the Victory Drive for an example. That's part of our rural residential 1 acre zone, and now it shows 3 acres. So to Todd's point, that's showing a decrease in density when our intention was to say this is an area feasible for increased development. But if we said it was 1 acre, then the regional commission says that doesn't align with the state planning goal of developing villages. So what we kind of came back to, and we never really got into the details about the density in the villages. But I think through the conversations we've had since starting this hearing, we should probably show an increase in density in the villages so that we can show the 1 acre density on Victory Circle as lower density than the village. So if you look at the comments on the right-hand side, towards the bottom, there's 4 categories that are shown. Future highest density mixed use. And that's what Todd and I had discussed was the existing or potentially slightly beyond the existing village center, designated village center. That's where there is there's already density, at least in the Scotty's case, there's water supply, and it's intended for mixed use. And so one of the things that that we had discussed, and we had talked about at the last meeting about how do we discuss minimum lot sizes and density for people who are on the water system versus not. And I like his suggestion of having no minimum lot size. Right. But either way, this is again not a regulatory map, and so we're not saying that if it's in this area that's what it'll be, but that what we want to get at when we're trying to explain to the regional commission that we're not encouraging sprawl and strip development is that we are also we're coupling the development outside the village with an increase in density in the village, and it does align with the state's land use planning goal. So that's sort of one of the major things that you'll see on the next map is those sort of
On the next
four
map, like
categories.
next week. Or 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
next meeting.
Hopefully, it feels like that's a lot of work. But yeah, that's the plan for the next map. So we'll show, and then another sort of, I guess, misdrawn usage on the map is in the village. There's all that green area shown as rural.
Yep.
Which, except for the highest density mixed use in the designated center, most of that will be just shown as high density mixed use. So basically saying those places currently I'm looking at Scotney Village, shown as rural. Most of that, except for the areas that don't support development, we'll show that as high density. So basically all that area that's shown as rural right now will be shown as potential higher density. Does that make sense?
Can I ask a question? Am I allowed? You're deliberating. I actually asked the chair.
I think you should be allowed to.
Okay. It'd be helpful for me if you put the map up there and pointed to what you're talking about.
Okay, let's do that.
I'm trying to follow you, and you're talking about green, and I don't see green. It's gray.
All of that.
That's green, okay.
Brian, as part of the suggestion, can you click and talk at the same time?
Mhm.
Amazing. You really do it all. I can't do that. I can only think or talk. That's why I never say anything. So is the suggestion that if you're on
I don't see the
water system water, that there's not a minimum density, that there's no minimum?
Well, if you're water,
density
next you go to 5.
Yeah, I think generally, like those details will have to be discussed.
Sure.
For
But
bylaws,
I
but yeah,
mean, I
basically,
think that
That's
makes
kind of the
sense to
idea.
me.
yeah.
Possibly even sections of Perkinsville. I mean, I still don't understand why we need to.
Can we have a 5 in the audience here? So it's distracting. Thank you.
I suspected when we started talking about the maps that we needed to have at least a little bit of the preliminary discussion about what we might like to see down the road.
Mhm.
Which we really haven't spent any time.
No, which we haven't. But I mean, not that I think we're on different pages particularly, but
There it is.
All right, let's see. I'll just zoom in on spin a little bit better. Okay, I don't know if you can. Do you want me to go up to the screen? Is that good? Or can you see my
Thank you,
point?
other point.
Pointing at your works.
Okay, so I'm over Victory Drive right there.
Yeah.
That's shown, basically, our original idea was to identify that as a place where development could be expanded outside of the village as kind of a neighborhood development, which would inherently be lower density than the village. But when the regional commission asked for an acreage, we had only talked about 1 acre in the village, so it had to be less dense than that, and inadvertently said that basically this map shows we want it to be less dense than it's allowed to be, which is not the case. So we're going to change those designations. In the village, if you can see the village center, is like the red right down here.
Mhm.
That's the designated village center, and so that's proposed to be highest density mixed use. And then the pink that surrounds it is existing, basically mostly residential development. That's not necessarily. There's commercial development up here too, but all of this green is potentially a good space to expand into. Some of it's ag land, and I would be a little bit hesitant to say that we want high density mixed use in those areas.
Are those prime ag soils?
Yeah.
But if it's high density that protects the ag soils, that's fine. 10 houses over here next to the field is fine.
Right, and so I guess
With
being the future land use map, so the zoning bylaws will be what they are, but the future land use map, I don't know if I wanna identify that area as what we're saying, we would desire to have high density, covering this span of land. If we were talking about lots more specifically, I think, right, we don't want to preclude high density in responsible ways. But I guess that's just to say that this doesn't show any future expansion, and we'd like to show some more expansion in the village. And maybe I will show that farm, and I guess I hadn't really thought too hard. I haven't started making the map, but one of the Todd had suggested, why don't we make this whole area between the village and Victory Circle shown as basically increasing development.
And we talked about that originally.
Yeah, and we
Conceptually.
discussed it, and there are some reasons that we didn't want to
And
do that.
regional planning, we got pushback from them on that, didn't we not?
Well, there's steep slopes, there's active farms that basically surrounding the Victory Drive already has kind of a neighborhood
Right.
feel, and the infrastructure in terms of roads and stuff like that, and existing residential uses. So we said we can increase density there, rather than sprawl and expand into new areas. I think that's sort of the gist. Some other sort of legend changes to make it more clear. So I guess it would be good to discuss. Todd had felt that it would be good on the future land use map to show where I just have the pink current developed land. He thinks it should be shown as commercial or neighborhood areas or industrial or earth extraction. And my response is basically that it's shown on the planning map and the current land use map. And in my opinion, for clarity's sake, you can just see where developed land is and where it's proposed without considering the nature of it. Basically, we're talking about the three categories of preservation, conservation, and developed land. So I felt like I don't remember if I started out by breaking them out and then decided to simplify after the fact, but I felt like it was clear and I think Todd's main comment was the opposite of this, but I thought it was clear to look at the map with just those three categories and three colors and get an understanding of what the vision is. I think the more colors, it sort of makes it more confusing. And if you wanted to get into the developed land categories more specifically, they are on the planning map as well, which is the map that basically contains everything. There's a lot on that map, which makes it kind of less useful from a general stance.
So remind me again, which ones are regulatory that we need to have?
The future land use map.
That's the only regulatory.
The current, well, no, there's probably 6 different ones, but of those 4 that we're talking about, the current land use map, the future land use map, those are regulatory. We need those. We don't need the land use planning map that I have.
Okay.
Right, do we have access to, I don't know if you even have up here, soil conservation service maps or something that shows the actual soil types in an area?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're earmarking an area for more development, it'd be nice to know that that's not all hard pan and glacial till, that we're reducing to 1 acre lots, which is gonna be really difficult to develop as a 1 acre lot because of soil conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Unless we have community septic.
Unless you have community septic, yeah,
Or
there's
other
no,
alternatives for waste disposal,
right,
Mm-hmm.
which we've been talking about.
like. Even in the Victory Drive area. Okay.
Right. Well, there was at least one subdivision that came to the DRB recently on Victory Circle that didn't move forward because after his sketch plan went to get wastewater permit and couldn't make it happen. So I mean, it's a valid point. But also one of Todd's points is it would be nice to show future earth extraction areas. But kind of in the same vein, I think we just don't have the data at this point where we have an open hearing for this. I think it would be great to do that. And then I guess just on earth extraction, his other suggestion was instead of mapping those areas, we could talk about including a clause that future earth extraction areas should be accessible from a major highway as opposed to down a long dirt muddy road for those intensive uses. So my feeling, he provided those two options: show them on the map or include a clause about access. And I felt like it would be probably better for us at this point to include an action item in the town plan that will consider amending a bylaw related to that.
Right.
So again, we're not talking about creating a regulation as much as something that would be worth talking about. Sure.
So based on Todd's input here, you're gonna go back and show us what all of this looks like.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts or comments on what we just did, Todd? Thanks, Todd, for your help on this too. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and you guys have talked a lot about increasing the density in the villages. You've talked about it. This is a good time to put that color on the map.
I agree.
And it doesn't say you're guaranteeing that people can do it. We still have the soil bylaws and such. But it opens up your ability that when you get to you're creating the zoning bylaw, you can entertain it. But right now, this map makes it hard, I think, at least in the villages, to make that happen. And then the other things I think are just sort of more refinements, because you have on this map, when I was looking at it, I was thinking, where's the vision? Right? Where do you want to see development? And to some extent, you've taken a stab at it here. There's a couple conservation districts, there's C10 districts that you are turning into 3-acre lots. And there's some idea of where you want to have 1-acre zoning too. So I think that if Ryan makes some updates, it'll be a lot more powerful tool without, I don't want to say without too much effort, because I'm not doing the drawing and such, but I think you can make a lot of progress on this in short order based on what you've already talked about.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, any other thoughts for Ryan before he revises this? Okay,
I want to know from the board whether you want to break out the different developed land categories or not. Broken out on the current and the planning map, but not on this one. Would that be?
I guess it all depends on what it looks like on it too.
Yeah.
If it really muddies the map and it makes it really hard to read, then maybe not, because remember, the audience this is gonna go to generally.
But can I offer my last comment then?
Please.
That, and this is exactly what, it's okay to have disagreements. I was concerned that someone inheriting this map would say that you guys thought about this and said, we don't really want industrial areas anymore. We don't want commercial areas anymore. We just want rural. And so someone could use this to take those areas that you've set aside before, and we could lose that. And I really like the idea of making sure that we don't lose our commercial areas, our highway commercial and our industrial zones, because we need a place when someone wants to make noise and have trucks. We want to make sure that we have a place for them to do it. That's the only reason I wanted them shown on this, just so we didn't lose them. But Ryan's right, they're all captured in the pink already.
They're there, but they're not identified.
Would it?
So just
but-
change the legend to say, rather than saying current, you were gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, but I was gonna say in parentheses that could say current developed land, industrial, commercial, residential, otherwise.
I think you should take a stab at it and see what happens.
Put the colors in.
Yep, that's how bad could it be? You can always change it.
I think that's fine. I just need to come up with a color palette that's they're sort of like connected somehow, that you just see that distinction.
But I think he answered Todd's point if he just puts in parentheses, that the pink area includes those things already.
It covers.
It could even say, see the
And
future planning map.
and you
for
do have,
that.
yes, you could even add that.
Yeah.
There is another map that does have that stuff.
Great.
I agree with what Todd said. You don't wanna take a chance of losing that stuff, but you gotta figure out how you're gonna protect it. From that happening.
Okay,
He's thinking further down the road too. We're not always gonna be here,
no,
you know, so it's gotta be clear to the next group of fellows or women or whoever. You know, what's there and what's intended.
so does that give you enough direction, Ryan?
I think so.
Okay,
The the village centers are very small. I think you should feel at liberty to expand those higher density village areas as you see fit.
Yeah, we talked about that, and I think we need to show the designated center anyway, so I
Yes.
think I'll just show like an outline. This is
And
the,
and maybe the red outline you did is fine. We did, I mean, we talked about that at one point, and I don't know if we feel like that should be no density restriction, but having the discussion about what it should be.
yeah, I think the next one will show expanded ice. That's
And if it's if it's that the red line outlines that you made, like, I mean, we have room to talk about it later, right?
Okay.
I don't know that it. Anyway. If that's true.
okay, so,
I have one more set of comments. They're one page and they're very specific typo type things. This was from the Conservation Commission. They submitted at the beginning of March.
Oh, okay.
Oops.
well, so how do we gotta, if we're gonna talk about it, we gotta post them.
Yeah, I'll put them in the packet. I have enough I can hand around.
But I mean, post so people that are online can see them too. How are we gonna do
Yeah,
that?
I can do that. I can
Oh,
do that.
okay, all right,
If you want to see them. They were basically, they were given to me before I had started collecting, so they weren't in the same folder.
so are these mostly typos?
They're all typos. I don't know if they all are.
Let's hand them around, let's go through them.
I think it
That's what
can
we're
be
here
done
for.
quickly.
Yeah, we have a
It's
little
only
time.
8:15.
Only?
It's only 8:15. Baby's not crying yet.
Howard, you got any more bullets in that gun of yours?
Yeah. Well, let me double check.
You wanna run us through this, Ryan?
I haven't read them in
Oh,
2 months, so.
I don't want.
No, baby's not crying yet. We should keep going.
Oh shit, that.
One 2803. Do we have a dairy farm now?
well, I know of one very
Yeah,
small one.
we have a dairy farm,
Yeah.
not we, there is a dairy farm.
Yeah, very small, organic milk.
Toby, what's that,
Yeah, on
I
what
wasn't
road?
aware of it.
off the bird lot.
Bird lot, yeah, they have milk and some number of cows now.
The- So,
Where was that a comment?
Line 2803. Okay, so, I'll let everybody read these and then we can just raise our hands and say, I object to this, otherwise,
Um. 1724 changed Vermont Electric Company to Vermont Electric Power Company, is that correct, or is it Green Mountain Power now?
And is this the kind of thing we should actually edit to say something about the power company that serves us? Because who cares what the name of the power company is? How do I feel about that?
Well, I mean, if there's company, it's Vermont Electric Power Company, and we said Vermont Electric Company, Probably should say the electric power company.
I
I
think
have
that's
no
actually
problem with that.
I think they're responsible for the high transmission lines, but
Okay. So,
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing is these line numbers are from an older version.
but yeah.
okay, so you'll have to do this deciphering then.
The only one that I wonder about is the comment, is this the proper place to request that deeds, property cards, maps, etc. be scanned and made available to the public via the internet?
Yeah, I had that same question.
We had either an action item, I think it's an action item that, or maybe it's a goal that says we'd like to continue digitization of things, but there is deeds and maps that are available to the public via the internet.
And we're working.
They only go back to, I don't know, whatever the date is, but
Sure.
there is a website for that.
So it should say continue to digitize, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay,
These are fine with me. I mean, I would say go through and do what you can for
The question on working dairy farms, I think somebody asked that already.
One.
Yeah,
No one.
You know, one.
a small one, just starting, not too
I
long.
mean, what is a dairy farm?
Milking cows selling raw milk.
How many? Yeah,
It also
there's
seems
more-
like-
you got at least. I mean, there's probably more than one in town. If set the milking one cow counts. Yeah,
It's not.
It also seems like it's probably a
That's
statement
not-
not worth having in the town site.
I mean, selling raw
But
milk.
he's talking over there.
Well, I was just saying, I don't think it's probably something that, because it could change like that, we should just
Right.
have that, but it's not really.
What are your rules?
I mean, I'm fine with all of those.
You know, just coming over there.
Wait, are we
once in a while,
good down the end?
Good beliefs.
We good? We're good? Mike?
The very last one, what's that have to do with Connecticut River or something? Must be? Or,
I don't remember.
do you know what this has to do with, Ryan? The last one?
Largest flooding body is written, this is the town's jurisdiction over the river.
I don't know. I'll see if there's, if the language is ambiguous.
We're suggesting the town has jurisdiction over the river. Could apply to a couple of rivers, I guess.
Yeah,
Some of them we do, some of them we don't.
yeah, I'll have to find that line and.
Anything else?
Well,
Anything else here for folks? No?
Yes, everything else is fine.
Okay.
For me, with me, I don't know what everybody else is doing.
I'm done.
Any other discussion here about the deliberation about the town plan tonight? And then we should talk about what Ryan is gonna do and what the deliverables hopefully will be in 2 weeks, so we know what we're doing at the next meeting. So Ryan, you wanna tell us what you believe you'll be able to deliver for the next meeting?
Well, I'm gonna work on capturing all of our responses to each of the comments, so you'll basically have an annotated version of all the comments. And an updated map, and then a town plan with changes as we've agreed upon. So those will be shown as a new version of the town plan. And I think we'll have some kind of summary just to explain where those changes are, so we don't have to just scroll and try and find them all. It didn't work out great to just take a screenshot and because it wasn't enough context, but I might be able to just do like a summary. This is line this, and so we know where to go to.
Okay, and then do we want to,
Summary.
the summary?
Yeah.
Sorry, Hank, you had a question?
You're going to, that's so that we can make sure we agree with the edits that you made. Maybe just put a comment in the Word doc. Like a little balloon on the side works pretty good, because then we can actually see the. On this thing, scrolling back and forth is really nice. That's what I'm getting to.
Put a comment on those changes in the version to say what?
Just saying, like, here's the change we made.
He was gonna do.
Instead of track changes, is that what you're saying?
No, that's exactly. Track changes is good.
Okay.
Getting to just scroll down, not having to go back and forth between things it sounded like you were gonna.
Oh, okay, so I think the summary of where those changes are, I'll just be able to tell you, go to this line.
Great.
I'll include it in the packet, but
Yes, great,
thank
you.
yeah. I have been having a comment on each change saying that this was addressing the comment from whoever. Which is kind of helpful, but also doesn't say which comment it was for those many comments, so.
Right.
Do you think that that's
I think you're good.
okay?
I think this gets way too complicated.
I'm trying to figure out where we are in the process and what
Well, that's,
we have to do.
that's why I said, what's the deliverables and what's the next step here? Because I was hopeful that Ryan would present us with the changes we decided on, show us the map. And at that point, we would say, oh, and the summary that I wrote that Ryan partially edited. And at that point, we say,
It's going.
good, or we
Yeah,
are,
we're not responding back to comments at this point.
no, this is it.
The response back to comments, I mean, we've documented, I think a lot of what we went through was documenting the response that we feel to the questions. Some of them are gonna make it into the town plan, some of them are not. And then the document is what it is. And
So are you suggesting, Mike, we don't post our responses to the comments? Because I'm trying to figure out.
I
what
think,
we should do.
I think you could. I guess it depends, I mean, I suppose you could. Maybe we need to, I don't know.
I think we do, and I'm probably halfway through them, and most of them are very simple.
Yeah.
I'm not like direct quoting or like I'm just sort of saying, this is or like a lot of them where this changes will be made or no change, and then it's like one sentence of why.
My suggestion on that is that it does not happen until this hearing is closed. Because you're not opening that up for discussion again, and that's what I'm worried about.
Well, you're right. So I think if someone had a comment like I didn't capture their comment, then they missed the boat because that's what this deliberative session was about. So the only thing to discuss would be is if the board didn't agree with what I wrote was your response. If you felt like that was different, but I don't think it'll take long. I think we need to post those responses to make sure that everyone understands that their comments have been heard and considered.
It also might be good when this goes to the select board to kind of a document that says, here are the comments we got. Oh, you have that same comment. Well, here, somebody else did it. Here was what we decided, why we decided not to do it.
I don't think there'll be much discussion on that document as much as it'll just be provided as an exhibit.
I think
No
it's
discussion
important
from
that-
We'll really just stick to the town plan changes.
Yeah, I think it's important that we recognize the comments and recognize that we discussed them and that we document them, but. Okay, so
I agree, I just wanted to be careful not to open that can of worms that we continue in discussion.
Right.
So-
Because we're not.
you're gonna do the responses, you're gonna make changes to the town plan, you're gonna update the map. And then what about the summary do you wanna see that summary that? We should probably put that up there for everybody to look at, because I wrote it, Ryan commented on it, I need to do a little more work on it, and we're ready to, should be able to include that with your suggestions.
So at the next meeting, we'll be able to, if the board's ready, to make a vote to accept what's proposed. You could even accept what's proposed with minor changes and stuff that we discussed in that meeting. And the summary is something you'll say where we're providing the summary as an exhibit for the select board when it goes.
Okay, that motion cannot happen with an open hearing. The Hearing has to close.
Right.
I'm just
We
pointing
have
that
to
out.
close the hearing and then make the motion.
Yes.
But, yes.
Okay, that solves the problem I was bringing up.
Right, okay. We're all good, we know exactly what you need to do?
Yes.
Okay, what support do you need from us between now and the next meeting? Just so you don't feel like you're.
Well, I think if you do a summary, that's something you can work on. I don't think there's all that much that the board can do to assist unless they want to write responses to those things. I'll make the map changes. I'll make changes to the
I
document.
think you've been taking the notes on the responses, and I agree with you, you keep them short and sweet.
Yeah, I think I don't think the board can provide all that much assistance.
Okay.
Music to my
But- But there's DRB hearings coming up, lots of other permits, so I'm hoping to get that all done, but it is a
Okay,
lot of
we'll
work.
try. Any other, before we move on to the next agenda, is there anything else? Okay, so then, thank you, Ryan, then let's move on to number 7 is discussion of any future agenda items. I think we know what our agenda is going to be. Number 8, any other business that can be legally discussed tonight?
I thought of something I want to point out here. This document that we're finishing up on now. Basically, Yeah, we're all involved in the conversation and giving a lot of directive to Ryan of what to do, what to research. The research goes out to, Ryan does it with Mark, with the state, with the law, all of this stuff. Basically, what I'm getting at is the amount of work that Ryan put into this document for us, for the town, basically for everybody. It was, I don't think we could have done it without him, is my opinion.
Agreed.
First of all, I don't think it would have gotten done, without him. And I think you did a fantastic job, and keep it up, but, it's great to have you.
Thanks.
So, yeah, I hope people understand just how much of this, how much work went into this from Ryan.
Maybe that could be brought to the attention of the select board.
I think we need to, well,
Yeah, you got. Anything else here this evening from anybody? Nothing else?
motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Aye.
All right, thank you all.
Hey,
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 second.
I'm not usually that quick.
I heard.
7:29. Good job, guys.
A shorter meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.